Hey, I'm Alex Ratcliffe from Board Game Co, and today I'm reviewing Kelp from Wonderbow. Kelp is a two-player asymmetric game in which one player is playing as a shark over here, and one player is playing as an octopus, who I can't show you because it's one of these face-down blocks, as the players try to, well, beat each other. The shark is trying to hunt down and kill the octopus, and the octopus is either trying to outlast the shark until it's too tired, or alternatively try to find its own source of food and feed 4 times in order to win the game. This is a prototype, by the way, all rules and components subject to change, and I'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below. But in Kelp, the basic idea, like I said already, is there's a shark, there's an octopus. The shark is going to be wandering around, and Lego Shark not included, by the way. As nostalgic as this guy might be, this guy's not included in the game, but I'm assuming there'll be something in the game, like I said already, prototype and all that. But the shark over here is going to be wandering around the board, traveling along the currents in order to be able to strike against the octopus. What the shark's going to do, once you're done with setup over here, let's figure out which bag is which over here. What the shark's going to do is they're going to, on their turn, draw 2 dice from their bag, roll those dice, and use those dice to be able to do a variety of things. Blue dice are going to primarily be used to navigate around the board, to move around different currents. So you're going to have the shark is able to move around the board, but they're able to move a bit further if they travel through currents. And if you actually have a sequence of currents, so for example, if you have a sequence of currents like this, they can move through that sequence to be able to get further across the board as they move. So the shark is trying to move to be able to slowly find the octopus. But additionally to this current dice, they're also going to need their red and yellow dice in this bag as well. We have some red and yellow dice, you'll be adding more as you go through it. But red and yellow dice give the opportunity to search for the octopus. You have the opportunity to go ahead and roll this dice over here. The yellow die over here gives the opportunity to search for the octopus, and the red die lets you go ahead and strike. So maybe perhaps over here, let's pretend we have the board set up like over here. Let's just like whatever, we put it over here. We go ahead, we swim through the currents, and then we go ahead and use this 2+ to be able to search for the octopus. That's a shell, that's left standing. By the way, these are face up and face down, but only the face and the players in, you know, a real game. But over here, they reveal that, and they go ahead and see that that's nothing, doesn't really help them at all in any of their actions. It's not the octopus, nor is it a trap. Then maybe they go ahead and spend this die over here. The problem is they have to move, so they maybe, let's pretend it's fast forward a bit, and let's pretend they're over here, and they go ahead and strike with a 4+, and boom, there's the octopus. They managed to hit the octopus. And at this point, you're like, well, congratulations, a lucky strike caused them to win the game, early game. Well, not exactly, the game's not over yet. But before we get to that, the general idea is you're going to have a bag full of blue and yellow dice and just a handful of red dice that you have to earn through these cards over here as you go. So you have to earn those dice, you have to earn those abilities to strike, because your dice are slowly going to clog up your board, which is going to represent your exhaustion. Meanwhile, the other dice that you spend are going to be used to go ahead over here and unlock and utilize these abilities and to get you more cards based on the pip value of those dice. And so your engine is about utilizing dice to move, to search, and then infrequently to strike. You want to be very careful though, because striking when you don't know where the octopus is means you have a 1 in 9 chance of figuring things out, and you don't have enough strikes to waste them casually and carelessly in the game. Past that, the octopus has tools at their disposal. They're not just a face-down little token on this board over here. Rather, the octopus is playing a bit of a deck-building system. They're going to have their starting deck of cards. They're going to have a hand of cards. They're going to use those cards to be able to do things such as shuffling hidden blocks. Taking blocks that are hidden, shuffling them up so you don't really know what's going on. Alternatively, hiding blocks, because right now, if you have the octopus in play, perhaps the octopus used a 5 over here to see this one over here, so it knows the octopus is over here, but it doesn't actually have the ability to strike right now because that strike die is in its bag. And so right now, you know where the octopus is, so the octopus has to go ahead and hide these blocks, and then go ahead and play this other card to go ahead and shuffle. Let's go ahead and find the shuffle, to shuffle a few blocks secretly, shuffling them up in the bag, and then having them pulled out and putting them down in different zones. And so maybe the octopus is still here, maybe it's over here. And that's a little bit of information from these starting cards, but the octopus has the ability to deck build as well, giving them more and better cards. There's going to be 4 schools of cards that you have access to. You're going to have cards that are going to let you reveal the octopus and shuffle it in with other blocks. You have cards that give you additional hiding actions, cards that let you learn more abilities, because you're going to use cards to learn cards, so digging directly into the learning deck is going to accelerate how fast you learn. And then you have these cards over here, which are going to give you food targets that when you eat those food targets, these are little blocks over here, they'll be added to the board, and if you have the octopus next to such a block, and you reveal them all, the octopus, I forgot what the octopus is, there we go, the octopus, you're going to go ahead and reveal them, eating the food, and being able to benefit from that ability, and being one of 4 steps towards winning as the octopus. You see, the octopus wins if they get their 4 food, which means they have to learn the cards, put them in play, be adjacent to it, and then eat that food, which is quite a process. Or alternatively, if they outlast the shark and the shark gets tired as it progressively utilizes dice, utilizes strikes, and continues to miss. Meanwhile, the last thing to really talk about is the fact that the octopus, the shark, when it strikes the octopus, you're going to enter into a bit of an end game, well, draw, so to speak. Each player is going to have 3 cards, and each player is going to pick 1 card and play them, because the octopus is trying to escape the encounter. So the octopus, maybe they cleverly pick flight, but they do it face down so you don't actually know what's going on. And over here, I don't know what they're going to do, but I think they're going to flinch, so I do counter flinch over here, which means I try to resist their flinch. Now, if I had done counter flight over here, then right now, the game is over, I've won. If you can correctly predict how the octopus is going to try to react to being struck, then you go ahead and win right away. But if you don't, if I go ahead and do counter fight over here, then I go ahead and I remove flight from the game, I also remove counter flight from the game, and the next time I strike the octopus, there's only 2 cards in play, which means the first time there's a 1 in 3 chance if you're going by pure odds, the second time there's a 50-50 chance, and the third time is a guaranteed strike because you only have 2 cards left. Now, the cards are not pure luck, they also have an ability to them, and so you're trying to predict around not just what you think the person is going to do based on, well, just random whatever, but based on what their actual abilities are and how they help them. So you're trying to think, oh, you might want to dodge to the side, so I think you're going to do that. But you know that that's the likely thing, so you're probably not going to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and try to react to what I think you think that I think you're going to do, because that's the thing that I definitely think that you're going to do, and therefore I shouldn't do that thing, because now I should probably do that thing instead. That's basically the game. That's basically what Kelp is. It is a game of 2 players going head-to-head. One player playing as a shark, one player is playing as the octopuses. One player tries to deal with a degree of deck building and manipulation and trying to outthink the shark. And meanwhile, the shark is trying to add dice to its bag to level up its abilities, to go ahead and try to aggressively pursue the octopus and strike when the timing is right, while they set up the board to be able to navigate and move around efficiently to be able to get to where they're trying to go to do what they're trying to do, which is, I guess, murder if you think about it. It's kind of murdering the octopus. That's the goal of the shark player. But that's Kelp. As far as the review, let's go to dive into the review part of things, starting off with ease of play. Ease of play, it's a little tricky in the sense that you kind of have to learn 2 sides to really efficiently know how to play the game. Meaning that the octopus is not that complicated, the shark is not that complicated, but they are 2 completely separate games. And you can absolutely dive in as one player and not the other without fully understanding every mechanic, but it does help your game a lot if you fully understand how each player is operating and playing. I would definitely write off your first game as a learning game, as you learn your side, and then as you're playing, learn the opposing side. I think the first game you should definitely consider to be a learning game. That doesn't really count. I mean, it counts as playing a game, but it doesn't really, you're going to be picking things up. You won't have your full handle on the game until you're at least 2 ways through, probably more than 2 ways, to be able to get a full handle of how each side operates and the various strategies that are available to each. So ease of play is not that complicated, but you are learning 2 separate games here in order to be able to play this. Game time can vary. It depends on who's winning and how they're winning. The shark can theoretically get an early win within 15-20 minutes or whatnot, but I'd say a normal game is going to last closer to the 40-45 minute range in general, as the players try to outdance each other and try to outlast, and especially if you're playing as the octopus and you're trying to exhaust the shark, and if you're playing with slow players, it could end up being an hour-long experience, but ideally shouldn't hit that zone. As far as what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking, starting off with what I like, which is the strong asymmetry in this game. Kelp is a game full of just complete asymmetry. The 2 sides are completely different. They approach the game in completely different ways as they try to navigate and dance around the board, hiding your pieces, dancing them around, putting them into the bag to be able to navigate and pull them out, to be able to outthink, outpace, and outplay your opponent based on a whole degree of why-fum. Why-fum is the term wine in front of me from the Princess Bride, where you're constantly thinking, this is the thing that makes sense, therefore I shouldn't do that because they know that I'll do that, and you go back and forth in this little game of trying to tactically plan around your abilities while mentally outthinking your opponents in the game. And there's so many ways to approach that puzzle. Both as the octopus and as a shark, you have different ways to try to apply pressure to your enemy. You can go for those occasional lucky strikes, hoping that maybe a quick and early strike can give you victory sooner, or you can play more methodically, trying to build up your dice, build up your abilities, and try to set up the board for success so you can go where you need to at a moment's notice, so you can react to what your opponent is doing. But again, both sides are constantly moving towards their goals at the same time. The octopus is either cleverly hiding and building up better and better tools, or alternatively, they're placing food on the board so they can actually achieve their own goals before the shark can get there. And so there's multiple ways to approach this game as either player, and it's a game full of bluffing and double bluffing and both sides powering up. That's a big aspect I like in games in general, is when both sides are powering up, are escalating, and that's definitely true here. The shark will get more powerful, the octopus will get more tricks up its sleeve, and so both sides start a certain way and just get progressively better as the game goes on. As far as things I don't like in the game, the first thing is the limited deck building agency as the octopus. The octopus has a bunch of pools of cards over here, and I just find that after a game or two, these cards they're still good, they're still an essential part of your pool, but I wish there were more cards. I wish there were more interesting things going on. I love the deck building game that the octopus has, but I kind of, because there's only like 12 cards to deck build with, there's a limited degree of agency of how many different ways can you actually build out your deck, and so I just wish there were more procedural. Even if there were a limited pool of cards that were in each game, even if you're like, hey, by the way, take 4 from this deck, 4 from that, and there you go, there's your set of 12 cards. But even even if the agency per game were limited, I wish the overall pool of cards were more varied, so the Octopus felt like there was more of a way to actually approach those cards and try to build out your deck. So I just limited deck building to be my first and biggest complaint against the Octopus aspect. I'll also say that there's lots of YFM in this game. Again, wine in front of me, which is both a thing I like, but can be problematic in a longer game. If you're playing a game of Kelp over here that's going to run you 45 minutes or an hour, the fact that so much of it relies on that thinking, double thinking, etc., it's something that I like the concept, I like the mechanic of YFM, but if it's used in too long of an experience, it effectively comes down to who is able to bluff and double bluff your opponent better. That ultimately might be the judgment call in a game, which can be a slightly unsatisfying way to end a 45-minute long experience. So it's not that I don't like YFM, I do, but because the game can drag a little bit, sometimes it can come down to that, which it's a part of the game. I don't see a way to fix that or address that. It's both a pro and a con because of the length of the game. As far as things I can see others not liking, first of all, that final strike aspect of, in general, the final strike being a 1 in 3 chance of getting it right, or even just the strike in the pool. Once the shark moves around a few times, reveals a few blocks, it's actually a trap over there. Once you reveal a few blocks, you're like, okay, great, you know what? Let's go ahead and go for just a 1 in 4 strike. We'll go here, boom, we strike, and there's the Octopus. We got them. So the fact that you can actually show a few blocks, and before the opponent hides them, you can go for that 1 in 3, 1 in 4 strike, and then follow that up with a 1 in 3 strike, and that could be the end of the game. That might be an anticlimactic way for the shark to aggressively and quickly pursue an endgame, and you're like, okay, great, you made a few judgment calls right, and now the game's over. And so that could be slightly anticlimactic. I will say, when that happens, it is a fun experience, but it's definitely a reset and continue the next game kind of experience at the same time. And then secondly, kind of going hand in hand with what I mentioned about the YFM, the game can drag a bit. You can have games that, especially if the Octopus player is going for just exhausting the shark, that can take time. Meanwhile, as the Octopus player is just kind of playing a desperate game of like, let's go ahead and hide some blocks, let's go ahead and shuffle some blocks, let's go ahead and try to figure out, we're going to hide those, we're going to take these 3 together, we're going to shuffle them up. By the way, shuffling's done in a bag, so it's not like it's not a shell game. You put them into a bag and do it that way so no one can see. But if you're playing a longer 45-minute, hour-long experience of just hiding blocks and rearranging, you're not really pursuing your own goals, it is an experience that can drag as it approaches the end of the hour. So I think the game, again, the Octopus has 2 ways of winning, trying to pursue their own food, which involves popping up and revealing themselves more often, making themselves more of a target, but does mean that they are more aggressively putting a timer on the shark, or waiting things out, which is very viable, but does lead to that slight dragging aspect. As far as final thoughts on Kelp, this is a delightful asymmetric experience. The whole entire puzzle of, first of all, the complete asymmetry of the sides, the fact that you have 2 totally different games going on. I will admit, I'm definitely biased because of the nostalgic aspect of the Lego Shark. I hope they can come up with something good on this. Alternatively, I'll be going on eBay and buying my own little Lego Shark for this game because it definitely has a nostalgia factor. But overall, the asymmetry, the powering up of 2 different sides, the little mind games you're playing with each other, my only real complaint comes down to those 2 aspects, that the YFM can be a bit of an issue in a longer experience, and the fact that the deck building on the Octopus I wish was a bit more developed. I wish there were more agency or more choices so that the game continues to stay fresh game after game after game. But past that, I really like the core puzzle here. It really feels like a game of cat and mouse, or shark and octopus, which is the other well-known phrase about that aspect of chasing the cat and mouse. It's a really well-done game of cat and mouse, and it's both sides feel very well balanced. Both sides feel like there is a puzzle. It feels like an absolute mind game. Overall, Kelp has been a ridiculously charming experience with great mechanics, great charm, and a great Lego shark. For me, this is a 4 out of 5. I easily recommend this game. As far as other game recommendations, first of all, we have Watergate. If you're looking for a 2-player head-to-head game of cat and mouse in a very different format, Watergate's going to give you a strong asymmetric experience of 2 different sides trying to pursue their own agendas, with some degree of trying to like pick up, reveal, and other things, but a whole lot of other mechanics baked in. And then a game that it weirdly felt similar to, in the sense of like the stronger, more powerful side trying to beat down the other side, but then having tools at your disposal. It feels fairly similar to Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation, another game that I definitely recommend checking out. I think it's out of print. It may have been reprinted. But Lord of the Rings: The Confrontation is going to be a game based on the Lord of the Rings, as one side takes on, Sauron and the Agents of Darkness, and one side takes on the various hobbits as they try to pursue their own goals in a completely asymmetric game, with the occasional cat and mouse aspect of trying to figure out who's what and where in the game. In any case, until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.